would love to hear how your Asian identity affected your experience of being a founder, operating, because we certainly live in times where this is something we want to understand, and in this project we really do want to provide more insight, about how the Asian entrepreneur has succeeded.
Right, Victor,
Yeah.
maybe just a little bit kind of explanation. When we say Asian identity, it also means your personal history, your personal connection, the network, including professional and private networks relating to Asia. That's what we mean, identity.
Yeah, I mean, I always think I'm a lucky guy. I'm very lucky, right? So, okay, one of the most recent example is we won the exclusive contract from the SEC. That's the US government agency, and they're probably one of the toughest one that set a very high bar to the vendors and all that, right? And then it's funny that couple months ago when I gave a talk at a panel in one of the DeFi event, right? There's a gentleman after my talk. He came and he talked to me and said, "Hey, yeah, Victor, I heard about your achievement in White House." I was like, "Whoa, that's a big compliment. What is it?" He said, "Wow, yeah, you guys really bring a great technology for the SEC to kind of help regulate the cryptocurrency and DeFi industry. This is all public news, anyways, right? This is all in the Forbes and all over the place now." And then he added one more that say, "Well, he's also Asian. Okay, he is also Asian. He's American born. I think it's a Vietnamese or something like that, or Korean or whatever." So, and then he said, I understand how hard it is, right? I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, at the end, right? So I think we work hard, and then we believe in the system. I think the US has probably the most fair system in the world, right? Not perfect, but I think is probably very fair, right? Like in the SEC, the 15 company competing for the one contract, there's one tender, right? Public tender. And at the end, hey, we never done business with the US government. We never done business. That was the first one. And yeah, we make it. We make it, right? So I think my advice to some, I know the identities and all this, I mean this the stereotypes and all this is always going to be there, right? But I think if we focus on your core competency, right? There's certain rules in the world that you cannot change, right? I mean, how are you gonna? Everybody's brains are wired differently, right? So why don't you just focus yourself and just? I mean, stereotype is always be there. It's actually more like a psychological or genetic problem of the human being, right? Why don't you focus on improving yourself, right? I mean, I always enjoy competition. I have a different mindset on competition. Think about it, Keith and Roger. If you were in an industry that there's nobody is competing with you, that's actually scary. Okay, it could be some possibilities. One, dude, you are in a dead end. You are in a dead end. Nobody care about what you're doing. That's scary. That's the worst thing in anything, right? So, or it could be, well, yeah, you got lucky. Yeah, you're probably the best one, but then also are you untapping your full potential, right? That's why I really like the startup world, especially in cybersecurity. We're competing with the bad guys, and then they're changing their tactics all the time. Like how they beat it, defeated like Symantec and Norton, like I just explained, in the MD5 signatures, and we come up with a behavior detection powered by machine learning, right? I think if you have that mindset, I mean, other than focusing on, oh yeah, I'm Asians, I'm Black, I'm LGBTs and all that, why don't you focus on your core competency, right? Yeah, and good things will happen.
I'd love to know your take on the most important aspects of your leadership style. You've given us a lot of things to put together around what your leadership style is like, but how would you characterize it? Just give yourself 5 seconds to think about it. What are the most important aspects of your leadership style founding what you've just described to us so well?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think I'm a listener. I listen, right? I listen. I think that's important, right? So sometimes if you are too stubborn, that can actually, one, it's gonna hurt the morale, right? The people may not tell you the truth, right? And second, maybe it's bad, right? So it's really bad if you're not listening to the team, right? So yeah, listening. And second is I always want to look at it in a very optimistic way, right? Even is an issue, right? We're always looking at, well, I already share a lot of like story with you, how you look at the competitors, right? You don't consider them as an enemy. You consider them as the people that you can learn. You just consider them as your teacher, right? And really, and then the third one is really execution, right? You can sit on a pile of brilliant ideas, but at the end, the successful founders or CEO is not because they just have an idea, it's because they can make it happen like that. I mean, I'm sure Steve Jobs is not the only one come up with a great user-friendly iPhone, iPad, and all that. He's definitely not the only one. I mean, it's so straightforward. Who doesn't like a nice iPhone that can be very responsive and fast and smart, right? But he's the only one that make it happen, right? And that takes a lot of effort, right? It takes this is like the chipsets. How do you deal with the user experience in the screens and all that? And then, well, and that's why they're so successful, right? I think, yeah, right now, I think those 3 points, I think it's very important for, I would say, all the leaders. I mean, all the leaders that we need to have, right? Being a good listener, and then be optimistic, and then, yeah, make it happen. Execution.
You have competitors, with a lot of very strong, powerful, with a lot of resource, kind of a talents or even great technologies to compete with you guys.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, and like I said, it's always good to to have competition, right? I'm very optimistic. I always look at the problem in a very optimistic way, right? So yeah, we do have some competitors, not a lot, but there's a few, right? And I always, I mean, okay, look, I'm building a company, building a technology company of great taste. Okay, Steve Jobs has a great, I mean, he's a influenced me. I mean, he's a great influencer, right? Of myself. So basically, I mean, I look at the competitors and I look at it. Okay, does this company has good taste? That's my criteria. Okay, and so, and then what can I learn from them? What do they do really? I mean, what aspect are they doing? They're better than us. You gotta be honest about this, because I mean the market at the end is very honest.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
The market, the customer, they, especially in our space, cybersecurity and compliance and all that, and cryptocurrency and all that, we are helping the customer to solve some very pressing issue, right? So, and it's a technology play. If you have a better product, you can detect the hackers early on. You can prevent them from happening, or when bad things happen, you can trace down the bad guys. It's actually, and at some point, it's black and white. Can you do it or not? That's it. I think that's all cybersecurity. That's the fascinating part about our cybersecurity, right? Technology driven, result driven, right? So yeah, and then we study very carefully about how those competitors are doing marketing, how they're doing, well, how is the technology, how their customers really, the feedbacks from their customers, because we do have some overlap in the customer base, right? So I think, yeah, you just need to learn. I think that's the right attitude for the entrepreneurs, right? You gotta learn, right? It's actually, you should appreciate that you have those good competitors with good taste in the same arena with you. Right, I'm a swimmer myself, right? So I mean, I think about how I'm improving my swimming skill is really when I'm part of the Palo Alto Master Swimming team, right? So
wow.
So it's really the group that I'm in. It's really like pushing me being a better me, right? So it's really, you don't look at them as your enemies and all that. You're looking at them as, well, it's the people that you can learn. And if you cannot learn anything from them, well, it's good for you. And it's that's probably they are learning from you now, right? So I'm sure my competitors now keep a very close eyes on on our press release, on our blog, and all that, right? And it's good. I mean, yeah, well, it's good. It's also the way I think about we give back, right? We're about to publish a machine learning blog. That is going to be the first time in the world that we apply machine learning detecting the Web3 payment fraud. You will never see anything like that, and we have been doing that for more than 6 months now. We scan through 49 millions of transactions using our machine learning, doing real-time detection, detect all this back transaction, and tell them that, hey, you should not do transaction with them. And turns out that our model is correct. We prevent those bad things from happening. I'm sure our competitors are reading, it's going to read them, and maybe they will freak out. If they're smart, they should freak out, because that is going straight into their business, and that's what the customer wants, right? So yeah, but it's fun. I really appreciate it. We have great competitors.
So actually, that's very good, Victor. It seems to me, you clearly emphasize, this is very, very healthy, positive way to look at the competition, try to understand, learn from them, make them as your motivator rather than your enemy. So, but then in the real a practice, how do you can stand out and win the deal from the customers? So that, I'm sure you're not just talking about the copy them or following them, right? You're talking about something else.
That's another good point, right? So one of my guidance for my team is also, it's okay to fail, and okay to make mistakes and all that, as long as you learn from it, right? So yeah, we got some of the contract that really we got beaten up by those competitors. They won it, but then we sit down with the team, we analyze the problem. Okay, is that because this guy has a stronger relationship with the customer, or they have a better technology, or they have a better customer support? What is it? Or they have a lower price? What is it, right? And then, okay, once we have those, what is our next step, right? It's like calculus, right? You have this point here, now you calculate the curve, right? You get the tangent, you calculate the delta, and now you kind of start adjusting your curve, right? I mean, yeah, you just need to be honest with yourself, be honest with your team, right? I mean, and then I'm actually thinking like that's the way how we can now we establish leader in the Web3 security is really because we have this positive mindset. We learn a lot from our competitors, learn a lot. We study their major press release. We look at all their annual report. I mean, it's all public information. They publish all over the place. We sign up and we look at it. And now they sign up in our social medias and all that, right? Let's look at it at the end, right? So I think this is also probably also my biased opinion, right? In cybersecurity, right? Our enemy is the bad guys. Our enemies is the bad guys. Our enemy is not our competitors. Don't get it wrong.
So you got a common enemy.
It is. We're fighting the bad guy with like this harmony, right? They chose this customer right now, right? They chose us and Chen. That's a great company. I really respect that company. They actually save us a lot of hassles. So if without them explaining the value of what we are doing, we have to educate the market.
Oh, I see. That's very
now
good
we
point.
come in and say, well, okay, it's good to hear that you guys are already using their product. Now here's the new value we can bring in. I'm not saying that you should replace them, but there's new value we can bring in, which is another big pressing problem that they could not solve and we could solve. That is the right mindset, right? And at the end, like cybersecurity, right? In like this ISA conference just happened like what in June, like last month, right? 6,000 cybersecurity companies all gathering in San Francisco, Moscone Center, 6,000 of them. In our space, Web3, there's only like a handful of us. And this market is rapidly growing. And like I said, those hacks, right? When it happens, it's hundreds of millions of dollars lost, right? So this is definitely a great market to be in, and we're glad to be pioneering it. You just need to have a positive mindset. Learn from the best.
I guess, you know, because earlier I had a question, actually, when you study your competition very carefully, I think you also meant how to kind of overcome your weakness, even surpassing them in certain areas. I guess that's
and then
objective,
exactly.
Right?
And then that goes into recruiting, that goes into how do you do marketing, right? It's a very complex problem. But at the end, you need to learn from the data point, learn from the real world, so you can have a very educated, I mean, hypothesis in the next step.
Share with us a few kind of thoughts, maybe a little bit details. How do you kind of pick the different opportunities? You talk about SAC, I understand. So give us some kind of a color to understand how do you prioritize? Yeah, to an MBA, maybe that's a tough problem, but to a data scientist, it's not a tough problem at all. It's ROI. Okay, we have a list of all the tasks, right? The question I'm gonna ask my guy is really, okay, the two columns. First column is, okay, there's only like a couple categories, right? Is that the paying customers that are suffering from the bugs? That's top priority. Somebody's already paying your stuff, and then it's makes sense. And okay, and then there's a different criteria, right? It's only like a couple categories there, right? And then another one is really, well, how many man days do you need in the engineering side, right? So there's the return of the investment, right? At the end, our investment is really on the engineering side, right? We're a technology company, we're a product company. And then we internally like kind of prioritize them. But we have that, we kind of go over it one by one, right? And then it was also, as a CEO, right, it's very important to actually listen, right? Listen to the team, especially listen to the guys that are on the front line, the people, the customer success manager, right? Probably sometimes the sales guy, right? And the engineer lead, right? They're gonna tell us, oh yeah, okay, this is gonna take a year to fix, and stuff like that, right? This feature is gonna take us like 1 year for 2 engineers. Then, well, okay, then we should hire more, right? So it's but at the end, that's how we prioritize. It's a kind of it's going pretty well, right? So at the end, you just need to come up with a feedback mechanism, and then it's running a startup is a very dynamic process, right? So and then also we have a very short cycle of turnaround time, right? So we have 2 weeks sprint, and then we have a quarterly performance review, for example, right? So when there's an issue, we can, and I always encourage my team, right? If there's a bad news, tell me immediately, right? In a big corporation, maybe that's not that's not the case, right? They always want to hide the bad news and all that. But in the startup world, we're gonna be transparent. And then my guys actually, is pretty good at that, right? So we're very transparent in communicating. There's no politics in the company, right? So I think that's actually setting the cultures, making sure everybody's aligned together. We have a very analytical mindset. Those are very important to build a successful company.